Welcome to Inside Tennessee. I'm one of your moderators, John Becker. We are streaming 24/7 from the WBIR Plus streaming room. Glad you're with us wherever in the world you are. And we're going to talk politics and elections today. Our guest this morning and this evening, and whenever you're listening to this, is Chris Davis. He's the administrator of elections for Knox County. Been there for 6 years in his current post, but he's been there for close to almost 13, 15 years in the county. Chris, we're glad you're with us.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
My colleague, John North, as always, by my side, and we're talking politics and elections. And, John, we'll get to some current political issues in moments. But first, let's begin with your first question to Chris on an upcoming seminar where a lot of people can learn much more about the ins and outs of elections in Knox County.
Chris, I think one of the reasons that we wanted to invite you to do this was we knew you had a primer coming up that you were going to offer sort of guidance, lessons, information to people who might benefit from it. And I think anybody could benefit from it here in Knox County. Can you tell us when you're doing that? Because I think it's coming up, and who all can come and all the details.
Certainly. First off, appreciate y'all having me on. I know with the Olympics, it's a little bit tight. So I
like you better than the Olympics.
Well, I'm going to say I'm really looking forward to the hockey, but we'll go from there. And so what we have a lot of, particularly in even numbered years, when you have 3 elections in Knox County, we see a lot of voter interest. We see a lot of people calling the office and wanting to know more about the process and the candidates and the finances and everything else. And so I have now, I guess for the 4th year in a row, the Election Commission here in Knox County has offered a seminar. Essentially, it's a half day where we have it on a Saturday morning, and we invite people out, registered voters in Knox County, to learn more about what we do. And essentially, we target 3 groups. We're targeting people who either are running now or maybe interested in the future in running for office, people who are interested in being election workers, because heaven knows we always need more capable election workers, and then just interested voters who are interested in the process, because elections are one of those things that people don't really think about until it's time to vote. But yet we get calls every single day with just garden variety questions. And to me, this is an opportunity for us to reach out and have those people come and visit with us. We'll answer their questions. They want to talk election security. They want to talk campaign finance. They want to talk about how do you determine my voting record? Do you register by party? All of those different things. So Saturday, February the 28th from 9 to 12:30 at the Election Commission office at Downtown West, where we early vote there. We're going to have probably 7 to 8 staff members and poll workers who are going to be there. And we're going to go through the ins and outs. It's interactive. People who attend this, we're going to have you do a mock election. You're going to get to see your voting record. We're going to take maybe a little quiz on what do you know, and there may be prizes involved. And just for anybody listening who knows auditors, this comes out of the prizes coming to my pocket and not Knox County's money. But I think it's just beneficial for us to try and hopefully, if we get 30, 40 people that attend this, they can go out and tell their friends, their contacts, their groups, their spheres of influence to be able to share that information.
You referenced this, but let's talk about some of the election myths that you often dispel at a seminar like this when people come in and say, I'd like to register by party.
Certainly. That's one of the ones that we get every single day is people call our office and they say, I want to change my party of registration. And quite often that comes from folks who they've registered, but maybe they moved from another state where there is party registration. And in Tennessee, currently, you do not register by party. Maybe that changes in the legislature this year or 2 years or 3 years down the road. But currently, you don't decide how you're going to vote in terms of a primary until you go to the polling place and you literally are asked. And we train our polling officials to do this. I'm fairly certain that every county in East Tennessee does this. Everybody is in your viewing area. We're going to ask you, John Becker, in which primary do you wish to vote? And then you can choose. And you'll fill out a piece of paper called an affidavit swearing that this is the party you're going to align with and that you're going to vote in this election.
That's new.
And you'll get that ballot. That's correct. We do have some new bona fide language that will be whether you vote absentee, early voting, nursing home, election day. You're going to see that language that you declare allegiance to the party that you are choosing to vote in their primary, and you're signing that under penalty of perjury. And so that's the type of thing that people want to argue with me every day. Well, I'm a registered Democrat and I want to change, or I'm a registered Republican and I want to change, and we have to explain it. Most people are understanding once we explain it, but it takes a lot of time. And so this is the type of thing that if I can get some people who can go out and share it with their spheres of influence, so much the better.
Just a reminder to people who are watching or listening to us, you can make the argument that it's very beneficial that we don't have this kind of party registration because, as we sit here and talk to you today, no Democrat is running for Knox County mayor or Knox County sheriff. So if you are a Democrat, you don't have any problem crossing over to go vote for a Republican candidate if that's what you want to do. If you identify as one, you can take part in any race that you want to.
That's correct.
Whereas if you had registration, that would be more complicated.
Oh, absolutely. And I think the big thing I would point out is any voter in Knox County who wants to see his or her voter history, they can request that from us. It won't tell you, we don't know how you voted, I promise. I don't know what candidates you voted for, but we have a record of if you have voted and if you have voted in a primary, which primary you have voted in. Had a kerfluffle a few months ago with a city council candidate who had voted, I think, in 11 Democratic primaries and 6 Republican primaries and was taken to task by someone in the Democratic Party that he had voted in Republican primaries. And the gentleman wanted to argue with me, but ultimately it's like your record is what it is. And so this is one of those things that and let me say one more thing about that. We have quite often people who they, for whatever reason, whatever motivation, they decide, I want to run for office now. Okay, then they look at their voter record and they haven't voted in maybe one election in 6 years or 2 in 10 years.
We've had that come up,
and it comes up every single election. We've had some I would say, just taking off my election commission hat for a second, just putting on my citizen hat, some potentially very good candidates who could have run, who their record indicates that maybe you want to wait a few, and get you build a record up. And that's another reason, check your voting record out. If you're thinking about thinking of running for office, or it's something that you're contemplating, and I would say this for any county in East Tennessee, any county in your viewing area, go ahead and start voting now. Make sure you establish a record so that maybe 5 years down the road, if you want to run for sheriff or county commission or one of the clerk's positions or whatever it is, maybe state house, that you have a voting record that you can lean on.
One of the things we want to point out is that those voting rules change really. They're constantly changing because you are constantly looking at whether people should be on those rules or not. Explain that process and why we may see the actual number of people who can vote in Knox County go up dramatically or drop dramatically.
Well, thank you for that intro. We just recently, in the last, I guess about a week and a half ago, the Election Commission, per state law, placed 38,000 individual voters in Knox County into inactive status. And we did that because those individuals have done absolutely nothing since at least November of 2022, meaning in November of 2022, all of 23, all of 24, all of 25, these individuals have not voted. They've not requested a voter registration card. They've not reached out to us to change their address. They've not signed a petition. They've done nothing. So the law questions, do they still live where they live? We've placed them in an inactive status. We've mailed them a notice, and they can respond back to us and say, no, I'm still here. I just haven't voted. Talked to a couple of individuals this week that have not voted since 2012.
Wow.
Almost 14 years.
A lot of
but
history.
they still live at the same address. And so I said, well, just fill out the postcard and return it, and we can place you back active. But this is one of those things that, I know we talked about this a little bit off air. It always bothers me. I get I bristle a little bit when people say that, Tennessee's horrible in voter turnout. I'm not going to argue with anyone that we couldn't do a much better job as a state and a county of turning out for elections besides president. But when I see 38,000 people that have done absolutely nothing, it does make me wonder. I don't have specific evidence of those 38,000 people that they've died, they've been convicted of felony. I don't have evidence that they've moved outside of Knox County, but I suspect some of that may happen. And it's a way for us to make sure that our voter rolls are clean, that when I look and I say that we only have 258,000 registered voters in a county of 500,000, out of 258, about 215,000 of those, they voted in November of 2024. So I feel pretty good about those numbers because you're always going to have a certain amount that don't vote. But, we went from 290-something thousand registered voters to 258. To me, that's pretty big.
But
go ahead.
I was just going to say, but to be clear, for anybody listening to us going, oh my goodness,
Right.
Knox County just purged 38,000 people out.
Yep. Good point.
If I'm one of those folks and
You can still vote.
you whacked me,
Absolutely.
I still have lots of time to say I really do exist and I do want to re-register. I want you to know I am.
That is exactly right. They are still registered to vote. That's a very good point. These voters that we have placed inactive, if they do still live in Knox County, maybe they've changed addresses. Sure. That's fine. They have all the way through November of 2028. So the rest of this year, if you live in the city, all of 27, you'll have a mayor's election. 2028, you'll have a presidential primary and a presidential election. They can vote. They can call us and change their address. They can go and vote, and they'll change their address at the polling place. They can request a voter registration card. They can sign a petition for someone running for office. Any activity, only if they do nothing between November 22 and November 28. At some point in 2029, the individuals that are left will be purged. But at that point, you've done nothing for 6+ years. The law assumes you no longer live here, or perhaps you passed away.
Right. So just as a practical matter to follow up on John's point and question, if you're placed on that inactive list and you go in to vote in May, nothing will look different or feel different from you. It will just indicate to you, oh, this person is still active in some way on this list.
That is correct. The only thing is we will require some people to fill out a form called a fail-safe form. It's just a address verification. Hey, yeah, I am still alive. Or if they've moved from Halls to Powell, you just go and change. That's why I really, really advocate early voting, because it's much easier to early voting. Election day, it's a little bit more burdensome and long lines. If you have an address change, if you've not voted in a while, go early vote.
We've got some important deadlines coming up, which are worth reminding to people.
Certainly.
I'm thinking, for example, that we still have quite a bit of time, maybe 15 days or so, for a candidate to come pick up a petition. And then a week after that, so that's February 19 is the deadline, and then a week after that, I think, is the deadline to withdraw.
That's correct.
And then we also have some other big deadlines. Could you enlighten us in terms of ensuring you're registered to vote and when early voting starts, et cetera?
Certainly. The big one is coming up. It's 2 weeks from it'll be February 19th. So on February 19th at noon, if somebody has not picked up a petition and returned a petition, he or she will not be on the ballot. We occasionally will have some people, and I guarantee we'll have a handful, that they picked up a petition, but they won't return it. And then even if they've qualified, not only is there a withdrawal deadline that the candidate has a week to say, maybe I need to have second thoughts about this, or maybe something comes up that we have this every year that somebody all of a sudden they have family health concerns, they have to take care of mom or dad or something, so they can no longer run. But also this deadline is there's also a deadline of February the 26th, that 1 week later, for the parties to determine if a candidate is bona fide according to their requirements. So we will get a list, we being the Election Commission, sometime after February the 26th at noon, telling us that all of these individuals are bona fide. Maybe this one's not, or these are not. And therefore, I think they have another week after that to appeal. I think I am, and here's why. Ultimately, we hold these elections for the parties, and I want everybody to understand that this is kind of like a meeting of a group or country club or whatever you want to call it. We're just conducting those elections. They determine who gets on the ballot. And another date I do want to throw out there besides the qualifying deadline, that's just for those local offices. We do have state offices, as you well know, state house, state senate, governor. That deadline to qualify is March the 10th, and that's a Tuesday. So that's another one I'll throw out there. I got some more, but I know y'all have a question.
Yeah, Chris, we only have about a minute or so left, but as always, you remind people, if you have any questions or concerns about the integrity of election, show up at one of these events, or just call your office and talk to people. Engage is your message.
Absolutely. And I will tell you, I'll give you another one real quick. This is a great opportunity, this one on February the 28th. But if somebody wants to come out and witness a public machine test, it's a mock election that we have about 2 weeks prior to the start of early voting, which will be April the 15th in this case. It's March 31st. I can set it on the calendar right now at Downtown West. It'll be on our website in plenty of time. I encourage you to come out and spend a couple of hours with us while we do a mock election. You get to see literally how do we prepare the machines. You'll get to see how do we seal them, how do we check the serial numbers, how do we do all the verifications and the checks and balances and the pre-election and post-election audits. We go through all of that because I understand from social media, from cable news, there are skeptics out there. I totally get that. But instead of spreading rumors and believing everything you read on Facebook, I encourage people, come out and learn from us. Ask questions. I understand. I'm a skeptic sometimes when I hear about Maricopa County, Arizona, or wherever in Pennsylvania or Wisconsin. But I can promise you in Tennessee, we're ranked number 1 in election integrity 4 years in a row. I feel very good about the men and women who represent the Election Commission, our poll workers, our staff, our part-time workers. We want to brag about this stuff. So come out, ask questions, give us a call. Check us out at knoxvotes.org. And as always, I just want to be transparent because I don't want people to use the excuse of, well, I don't trust elections, to not get out and vote.
Chris Davis, we always appreciate your perspective. Thanks for coming on with us on this inaugural broadcast of Inside Tennessee on our streaming platform.
I am honored, gentlemen, and I'm honored to be with such two outstanding gentlemen as yourselves. Thank you.
We'll have questions for John and talk about some politics of the day when we come back after a short break. Back here on Inside Tennessee, we appreciate you watching no matter where you are or what time it is. Typically, we're on Sunday mornings, 9:30 on WBIR. My colleague John North is with us once again on this inaugural broadcast on WBIR+. John, some perspective. We want to run through some political things that people should have in mind over the coming weeks. We'll talk money, we'll talk about polls, but let's talk about precinct reminders. One thing to build off of what Chris Davis was explaining to us.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize this, and suspicion has been raised, unfortunately, over the last 10 years or so about the voting process, not necessarily here in Knox County, but across the United States. And that is the place where you go vote in a precinct on Election Day, or where you are designated to go vote on the Election Day. They post the results from that specific precinct, and you can go look at them when the place closes at 8 o'clock thereabouts. They will then run a tape and they'll post it. They'll tape it to the wall, and you can go see it. It'll be in a very obvious place. I just think that's really informative. That tells you, let's say it's a school like, I don't know, I'm making this up, Bell Morris. You could go over to Bell Morris or any of the places where people vote, and you can see what the results are. So the whole point is, I think a lot of people just tend to think, oh, it's not transparent, it's opaque, but that's not true. It's very transparent. There's a lot of openness about what's going on.
Yes, and just pulling back the curtain, John, a lot of times campaigns or media organizations like us will send people to specific precincts to say, this is a bellwether precinct. Yeah. What happens here may really signal how this election goes over the evening, and that's what happens. You look at what's posted and which candidate has the lead here, and you can say, oh my gosh, at precinct 42C, this person has the lead substantially.
We know that happens in Knox County. It may happen like in the other counties as well, but here's the point. May the 5th is going to be a very busy election day, and it's going to be highly scrutinized here in Knox County because we have some extremely high-profile races, and we will be sending people to go sort of peek at what those numbers show us, hoping that they give us a sense of what's up.
Let's talk about some of those high-profile races and the money involved in them, and let's start with the sheriff. We are going to see a new sheriff. Tom Spangler is term limited. He cannot run again. His chief deputy, Bernie Lyon, sadly died, was already running for office. He is no longer in, obviously, but we do have several credible candidates who are running, and you've been breaking down what they've been raising in terms of campaign money.
With sheriff, the money is kind of roughly the same, I would say. It looks like, and it's 4 men who are running. Mm-hmm. As Republicans, we don't have a Democrat who's running yet in the May 5th primary. But for the 4 Republicans who are squaring off on May 5, money is pretty much about the same. A lot of them are sitting on roughly somewhere between $25,000, maybe $30,000. Most of them have been in the game a lot longer. After Bernie died, which you mentioned, we suddenly had David Amburn, who is chief of detectives, who stepped up and decided that he would run. I don't know that he's taking Bernie's place, but he is sort of on the department now. He's been with the department many years, and he is perceived as kind of the sentimental favorite in the department. Now, whether that holds up or not, I don't know. I mean, Bernie was viewed as the department's candidate in the sense that I think the sheriff backed him, and now Bernie's gone.
And we have all of them are veteran law enforcement officers in one way or another.
Right. Mike Davis is retired DEA, married to Elaine Davis. I ran into him I think it was Friday.
State lawmaker.
Yeah. Elaine Davis is a Republican state lawmaker. Mike was campaigning last Friday at the Blount County Chamber breakfast down at the airport, and I thought, oh, that's interesting. Nice to see him campaigning. But you've got J.J. Jones,
former sheriff,
who, has served quite a bit of time as the sheriff and decided after sitting out this time, he ran against Tom Spangler 4 years ago, as I recall, and lost, but he's back in it. And then you've got Brent Gibson, who has been with the department a long time. So you've got a lot of people that are running. It's just there are no Democrats. So right now it's all GOP.
And they have all agreed to join us for a debate a little later
that's worth
this month.
mentioning.
So we'll definitely have them on and much more from each of them in the coming couple of weeks so that you're prepared and you can decide who you think should be the next sheriff. I would just circle that number that you mentioned and put a pin in it. $25,000 does not sound, in this day and age, like a lot of money for this county-wide seat, John, in particular because of the power that it brings with the office. And I just move right to the mayor to sort of make that point because we're seeing much bigger dollars when it comes to the people in that race in the primary.
Well, I think to your point, we are going to see, we don't know it now, but I think the guys running for sheriff are going to seriously up the stakes in terms of what they're going to spend. We'll find that out. But in regards to the mayor's office, Larson J. entered this race or announced, 18 months ago, 2 years ago. I mean, he very quickly, in like 24 or thereabouts, said, I'm going to be running for mayor. And he put a very fat pot of money on the table just so everybody can see that he was serious about what he had and what he wanted to do. I think it was a lot of money. It was like $200,000 or $300,000 at that time. He has continued to maintain good fundraising, and he sits on a lot still. He's got, as of his most recent report, $333,000. Some of that he'll spend for the primary. Some of that he cannot spend until we get beyond the primary if he wins the primary, legally speaking. And then you've got Kim Frazier, another county commissioner, as Larson is, and she's sitting on roughly about 88, I think. And the third opponent is Betsy Henderson, and she's sitting on about 85,000. So Larson's kind of way out front in terms of the kitty that he's got, and then you've got these two other candidates. All three are Republicans, by the way. We don't have a Democrat.
I want to quickly move to another race that you're watching, and that is the trustee race. And we have two candidates on the Republican side here. And you also pulled the numbers for them this week as well.
So this one's really, really interesting. And if you're a nerd and you follow Knox County politics, this one's kind of fun because, we had a bit of a scandal that emerged, roughly about a year ago at this time involving the trustee's office, and there were suspicions. The internal audit of Knox County did a review and had questions about spending in the trustee's office. That's Justin Biggs. And then the comptroller came and did their investigation. Ultimately, Biggs himself, he paid back some money, he said, on his own voluntarily. I think it was $3,000, $3,500. The comptroller's office did not identify him specifically as having done anything wrong, but did raise questions about sort of checks and balances. And another employee who had worked in Justin's office did end up being indicted.
And this all centered on travel expenses that may have been excessive.
Use
and then
of
also
vehicles.
Use of vehicles that perhaps were too much for...
Right. And the other employee who had been a manager that Justin brought in when he first got elected is alleged to have basically used insider knowledge to try to sort of trade off and profit on land sales. But anyway, so that raises that whole cloud among some people at least about him and his tenure as the trustee. Pretty quickly after that all began to merge, roughly, I'd say, April of last year, May, Nick McBride, who is term limited as the Register of Deeds, made a very calculated decision. He's been in politics here in Knox County for forever. No offense, Nick, 30 years is forever. And said that he said to himself, I'm going to take on Justin Biggs, my fellow Republican, for this office. So that's all to say. It's a very long, windy introduction to say Justin's financial disclosure form, which was just recently filed to meet the deadline, shows no money raised since July, and he's sitting on about $3,000. Nick's got about $25,000. Now, things can change, but that's just very interesting that since July, Justin's not got any money. I haven't had a chance to ask him. He doesn't return calls as quickly as he used to, his decision. But anyway, that will be very interesting to see if he kind of amps up his game spending-wise between now and May 5th.
Let's move to a statewide poll we saw again from the Beacon Center, based in Nashville. They call themselves an independent group. Others label them as more conservative because of their support on various issues. We've had them on a bunch of times on Inside Tennessee, but this latest poll shows that Marsha Blackburn continues to maintain a strong lead in her efforts to become the next governor of Tennessee. Let's start there.
I'm sure the other Republican candidates weren't thrilled to see this if they looked at it, because it shows Senator Blackburn has just a commanding, whomping lead, if you will, in the poll over John Rose and Monty Fritz. I mentioned this Blount County breakfast that I was at, the chamber breakfast, and I was sitting at a table where somebody made the observation, and I didn't disagree based on the conversation that was being had by everybody in the room, that everybody was already sort of anointing Senator Blackburn as our next governor, and that sort of rankled some people. But, she is the most high profile, and she has gotten a lot of favorable attention from President Trump, who is the leader of the party. The poll for her looks great.
Let's also talk about President Trump, because he slipped a bit in this poll. That may surprise some people. It's still polling very strong among Republicans, but losing a bit of support statewide, according to the Beacon Center.
Right. True. Keeping in mind that we are a very red state and that it's a very Trumpy state and has been all along. But, his numbers did slip a little bit down to, I think, 53% approval. This is overall 43% disapprove. But as you mentioned, in the party, he's still doing fine among Republicans. It's like 70-some%.
This poll does a little bit on taxes as well and what the legislature might take up. Is there anything else that stands out to you in particular, John?
I didn't think I saw anything particularly. I think they'll have some fun. I don't know. We have had them on the show in the past, and we've even suggested questions to ask. I don't know what's kind of on their list, but Governor Lee just had his last State of the State address, and I'm sure that they will come up with some interesting things there. By the way, that reminds me, both Marsha Blackburn and Bill Hagerty were present at Governor Lee's State of the State, and I thought that was very interesting as well.
That's his opportunity for our viewers who might have missed it, John. That's his opportunity to say, these are my priorities for this year, and he did so in the budget and in that address. Was there anything in his message to the state of Tennessee that you thought stood out in particular?
Probably the lack of talking about immigration-related issues would be the thing that I thought, well, that's notable. I mean, he talked about the so-called vouchers that he wants to, I think, double the program. That is significant because we're in a very, very, very flat year in terms of revenue. How do we pay for it?
Even as fellow Republicans are asking.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are like, well, I kind of would like to get the roads fixed first, if you don't mind, instead of... And this has been interesting. There's been reporting which shows that a lot of the recipients for these so-called vouchers are living in urban areas, and rural recipients are just not getting the money. And that's very interesting because a lot of rural lawmakers were like, how are you going to help take care of my people? And it would appear, based on the reporting, that it's just not happening.
We're going to leave it there. John North with some perspective and things that we'll be watching throughout this election season on Inside Tennessee and also in our reporting throughout the week on WBIR. We appreciate you tuning in on WBIR Plus, and you can catch us anytime on this platform. We're here in part because the Olympics are on, but no doubt you'll see us more and more and more on WBIR Plus. For now, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Inside Tennessee.